have 5 questions from here. If you're able to understand all of these 5 questions, I'm hoping that the provision will be crystal clear to you. The call of the question is, how much depreciation is allowed for the current year? The following information is for a taxpayer that met the requirements for deducting expenses for the business use of 20% of taxpayers' home. I generated $6,000 from my business, so $6,000 became my business income. What are we doing? We are taking Schedule C income. So our job is to figure out what is the final expense, net of, what is the final profit or loss net of expenses that I will carry on Schedule C. So for that, one of the criteria is you take business use of the home and you get that as a deduction. Now, first in order is mortgage interest, that is Schedule A expense. 15,000 was for the entire home. I will take 20% of this, and then 3,000 would become the first expense that I would be getting. That would give me 3,000. So this is the left amount that I can reduce further. The business expenses not related to the use of home would come next. And here you're going to get 2,000. And this 2,000 will entirely go to the business portion only. That means now I'll be left with $1,000. Now I'll take maintenance, insurance, and utilities. Again, I will take 20% of it and I will take it away. So I know it is 800. I'll again reduce it by 800. I'll be left with 200. Now I have depreciation, which for the full house was 8,000. I'll take 20% of it, which was 1,600. I should have taken 1,600, but I have only 200 left with me. So I will take depreciation of 200. My business income, that means my Schedule C income, would be 0. And out of the total depreciation of 1,600, so depreciation was 1,600. I was allowed how much, guys? I was allowed 200, and 1,400 would be carried forward in the future years. So how much was allowed out of 1,600, which is not the correct answer? You were allowed 200 because you did not have enough income to absorb this. Is this clear to everybody? Now, what is important is remember the rank, okay? So remember the rank of claiming the deductions. So remember the first one you will take is those expenses which anyways you would have taken in Schedule A. So you remove it, interest and taxes. Then would be only those expenses that have been dedicated entirely to business. The third would be those which would be incurred irrespective of whether you use the home for business or personal use. So I'll take utilities, repair, insurance, all of that, and then I'll split it. In the end would be depreciation, whatever is possible. Is this example clear to everybody? Because then we will move on to the next question. Then we go to the next question. Go slow and see if you're able to answer this question. How much may the taxpayer deduct for this office? C is a self-employed flight instructor who assists in the writing of aviation books. She uses a room in her apartment as an office for her writing, and it constitutes her place of work. It is also used to store personal effects and an occasional second bedroom. It takes up 25% of the space of the apartment, and it is used 50% of the time as an office. The rent that she pays is $400 per month, and the utilities that she's taking is for per month. How much will this person be able to deduct from her business purposes? So the provision that, guys, okay, one thing I want to tell you, if you ever have time, there's a beautiful podcast series called Dr. Huberman's Lab. Now, this is a guy who's a scientist and a lecturer at Stanford University, and he has started his podcast to explain science and science-related queries to everybody in a very lucid format. So I was going through one of his lectures which said that if the time gap between learning and putting questions is really low, that means the moment you've learned a topic and you're immediately taking questions, that is the way in which the mind retains maximum information. The reason in which, for which most of my courses are designed in a way which first makes you think, second, we take very good questions in the class. And the reason I give you these questions in the class is because when you get it wrong, and then when you learn where you made a mistake, that's an active learning, and you cannot substitute it with anything else. So the reason I'm giving, and the way I place these questions one after the other, it is all thought about. So please be active in the class. You're giving me 2 hours of your time in the morning. Please be active, because when you get it wrong, and then when you understand where you made the mistake, you're never going to get it wrong. And second, After my class, just have patience to go and read the PPT once again and then immediately go and do the questions from. You will see that there is nothing that is left. And after that alone, go and read the book if you want. That's the cycle. And if you can follow this cycle religiously for 20, 30 days, you will see you already have this in a habit and it will not take you time. So please participate. Get the answers. It doesn't matter whether you're getting it right or wrong, so long as you are attempting the questions. That's the idea. So yes, the provision that we did not follow was exclusive use of home. And there is no exception. It is not being used for daycare. It is not being used for retail or wholesale. So we cannot allow this exception. Hence, this lady will not get any deduction for the business use of home. Next question. It looks like a big question, but at the end of the day, you can all break it down into smaller questions. So please understand that they're not going to give you big questions, but they're going to give you very, very tricky questions, which wants you to have a very cool set of mind. So when a question is very big, you will realize that there would be a trick in the question and the answer will be really very fast. You'll be able to get. See, using the simplified option, what amount will be reported you'll see as expenses for business use of home? Now, I know if I use a simplified option, I don't have to read any of this. All that I need information on is what is the square feet. If it is more than 300, I don't care. If it is less than 300, then I care. Because if it is less than 300, I have to restrict my deduction to 3. If it is less, great, I'll take that lesser figure multiplied by 5. If it is more, I'll restrict it to 1500. See, be a barber is a sole proprietor who uses a room in his residence regularly and exclusively to meet with customers in the normal course of his trade or business throughout year 1. B determines that the room is 350. Bingo. The moment I get 350, I know it is 300 into 5, and that should be the answer. And that should be the answer. See, all of this information, all of that information is redundant. They've given you a lot of details about business, home, this, that, not needed. The moment I use a simplified option, I'll take 300 square feet. The only thing that I need to know is if this is less than 350, I'll have to take a 300. I have to take a lesser figure and multiply it by 5. Looks like a big question, but it's an actually very, very simple question. Next question. Next question. Now, I think by this time you should be able to give me the answer. Give me the answer for the fourth question now, guys, okay? N's current year return should reflect what? During the current year, N operated a business from her personal residence. She used 25% of her residence. The key word is exclusive, exclusively for business purposes. It was her principal place of business. The income and expenses attributable to the business portion of her residence were as follows. So you started with 4,500. First in order would be all of those Schedule A expenses. So it would be interest and taxes, which is $1,250. Just give me one moment, 1 second. Yeah, so let's just take this, okay? So you started with 4,500 and you reduced 1,250 from here. You'll be left with 3,250. Please, meanwhile, the moment you get your answers, please write in the chat panel. Then the second, so this is your Schedule A. The second layer would be only your business related expense. So out of these, my business related expense is 2,400. This is only business because had I not been running this business, there would be no supplies expense. So I'll reduce this 2,400 from there because this is only business expense. So I'm left with 3,250 minus 2,400, which gives me 850. So I'm done with this, I'm done with this, I'm done with this. Is this clear? Why are we not taking 25% of these figures? Because they've already given me the allocated portion. Now I reduce 350, which is a part of my maintenance, utilities and stuff. That means these are expenses which would be incurred irrespective of the business or the personal use of home. I'll be left with $500. And this 500 I could claim from depreciation. So my Schedule C income becomes 0 and the depreciation that I would be carrying forward becomes 1,300 minus 500 that I could utilize for this year and it becomes 800. So what's the answer for this question? Fourth question is no profit and loss from business, the $800 expense that I carried over to the next year. See, this is allowable depreciation on residence. This is allowable depreciation. That means they're talking about only the business use of it. Shubhanil, is that clear? We're not talking about See, the word that I've used is allowable depreciation. That is the reason we are not prorating it. So the key is to understand every, see, you will never fall short of time when you're doing a paper like EA or a CPA. Now go to the next question. Using the simplified option, how much can R deduct for the home office? I think by this time you should be in a position to answer this question. What is the answer? How much can you deduct? You have, again, Shubhanil, you are rushing. You've got to slow down. It's 250. I'll simply multiply it by 5 and the answer becomes 1. What I all wanted to see was that it is more than 300 or less than 300. If it is more than 300, I'll restrict myself to 1500. But if it is less, I will take a lesser figure and this becomes 1250.